Chapter 9, Guideposts for Living Wisely, Distilled Orientation from a Life of Looking. After traversing the major terrains of human life, human nature, love, marriage, meaning, success, and mortality, we arrive at a different kind of map. The previous chapters explored landscapes. This chapter gathers landmarks, not rules, not commandments, not guarantees. Guideposts. Over time, I have become less convinced that wisdom consists primarily of discovering new truths. More often, wisdom seems to involve remembering important truths that human beings repeatedly forget. We forget what matters. We forget what is enough. We forget that life is temporary. We forget that attention is precious. We forget that other people experience reality differently than we do. We forget that certainty is often an illusion. We forget that love requires time. We forget that reality remains larger than our theories about it. The guideposts that follow emerged gradually through years of reading, observation, mistakes, relationships, reflection, and lived experience. They are not presented as universal laws. They are reminders, landmarks intended to help orient us when life becomes confusing, difficult, or overwhelming. Do not pursue valueless things. Time, energy, and attention are among the most valuable resources we possess. Yet many people spend them as though they were unlimited. We protect money while wasting hours. We guard possessions while surrendering attention to distractions, outrage, comparison, and pursuits that add little to the quality of a life. The challenge is not merely deciding what to pursue. It is deciding what to ignore. A meaningful life is built as much through exclusion as inclusion. The discipline of saying no protects what matters. Not every opportunity deserves acceptance. Not every invitation deserves participation. Not every idea deserves attention. Your life is ultimately constructed from what you repeatedly attend to. Protect your time, energy, and attention. They are your true wealth. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. Every human being receives advice from family, from culture, from institutions, from experts. Many of these voices offer genuine wisdom. Yet there are moments when no external authority can fully answer the question before us. At such moments, we must listen carefully to something quieter. Our own experience, our own conscience, our own sense of what feels deeply aligned. Following that inner compass is not always easy. It may require disappointing others. It may require uncertainty. It may require leaving familiar paths. Yet there is a unique kind of regret that emerges from living someone else's life. The courage to follow your own path is not certainty. It is responsibility. Stay curious and interested. The world is far larger than any map we create of it. Curiosity helps us remember this. It keeps the mind open. It softens certainty. It invites exploration. The curious person remains teachable because they understand that reality always exceeds understanding. Perhaps one of the healthiest responses to existence is not certainty, but wonder. Not knowing everything. Remaining interested. The pursuit of understanding is not merely a means to an end. It is one of the pleasures of being alive. Live every day of your life. Many people spend years preparing to live, waiting for conditions to improve, waiting for retirement, waiting for the next milestone, waiting for life to finally begin. Meanwhile, life is already happening. It is happening in ordinary conversations, ordinary mornings, ordinary walks, ordinary meals, ordinary moments. The tragedy is not that life is short. The tragedy is how much of it can pass unnoticed. Presence is not a productivity technique. It is a way of inhabiting reality. Life's grace is often hidden in the ordinary. Learn to keep yourself company. Sooner or later, every person encounters themselves. The question is whether they can remain there comfortably. Many forms of distraction arise because silence reveals things we would rather avoid. Unresolved fears, unexamined beliefs, lingering grief, uncertain questions. Yet the ability to keep oneself company is one of life's most important skills. A person who can sit quietly with their own thoughts possesses a kind of freedom. The goal is not isolation. The goal is self-possession, to cultivate an inner life sturdy enough to provide refuge when external conditions become difficult. Be open-minded. Reality frequently surprises us. New evidence appears. New experiences emerge. New perspectives reveal blind spots. The open-minded person understands that certainty is often provisional. They recognize that beliefs are tools for navigating reality, not possessions to be defended at all costs. Doubt is not always weakness. Sometimes it is wisdom. The willingness to revise our understanding may be one of the most reliable signs of intellectual maturity. Avoid the identity traps. Human beings naturally organize themselves through identities, roles, groups, beliefs, affiliations. Identities can provide meaning and belonging, yet they can also become cages. When identity becomes rigid, growth becomes difficult. We begin defending labels instead of exploring reality. We confuse who we are with the categories we inhabit. The challenge is to remember that identity should serve life, not replace it. Be yourself and allow others the same freedom. Convert time into love. Time is life, and love is largely expressed through the giving of time. Attention, presence, care, listening, participation. The people we love rarely need perfect words. They need us. Our presence communicates value more powerfully than most declarations. When we give someone our time, we give them a portion of our finite existence. There are few greater gifts. Perhaps the truest measure of a life is not what we accumulated, but how much of our finite time was converted into love. Look the reality of life straight in the face with courage. Life contains beauty. Life contains suffering. Life contains joy. Life contains loss. Maturity requires the willingness to face all of it. One of the hardest truths to accept is that everyone we love is temporary, including ourselves. This reality is painful, yet it is also what makes love precious. The purpose of confronting mortality is not despair. It is appreciation. To cherish people now. To speak the words now. To show up now. Loss is part of love. The courage is loving anyway. Be less judgmental and more forgiving of others and yourself. Every person is carrying a story we cannot fully see, a history we do not fully understand, a struggle we do not fully appreciate. This includes ourselves. Judgment often emerges from incomplete information. Compassion begins with recognizing that human beings are imperfect, limited, and frequently doing the best they can with the awareness available to them. Forgiveness does not require forgetting, nor does it require abandoning discernment. It simply recognizes that understanding often accomplishes more than condemnation. Avoid extremely intense ideology. The desire for certainty is powerful. Ideologies often satisfy that desire by offering simple explanations for complex realities. The danger arises when allegiance to a belief system becomes more important than reality itself. The more intensely we identify with an ideology, the harder it becomes to see evidence that contradicts it. Freedom requires maintaining the ability to think independently, to question, to revise, to remain larger than any single system of thought. Stay curious enough to remain free. Know what is more than enough, and thereby what is sufficient. Many forms of suffering emerge from the inability to answer a simple question: how much is enough? Without an answer, desire becomes endless. There is always more status, more wealth, more achievement, more optimization. Yet enough creates a stopping point, a place from which life can be inhabited rather than endlessly pursued. Wisdom requires distinguishing genuine needs from conditioned desires. Sufficiency is not deprivation. It is freedom. Be warm-hearted and tough-minded. Kindness matters, so does clarity. Compassion without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. Boundaries without compassion become hardness. A well-lived life requires both. The challenge is not choosing between heart and mind. The challenge is integrating them. Lead with kindness, but do not lose yourself. Be joyful and grateful. Gratitude changes perception. It does not remove difficulties. It does not eliminate suffering. It simply broadens awareness to include what is already good. Much of life becomes richer when viewed through appreciation rather than entitlement. Joy often emerges from meaningful participation in life, rather than the pursuit of pleasure alone. The grateful person notices gifts that others overlook, and in doing so, inhabits a richer reality. Live as you will have wished to have lived when you are dying. Mortality clarifies, Imagine looking backward from the end of life. What would matter? What would not? What would you regret? What would you cherish? This perspective does not answer every question, but it illuminates many of the important ones. The awareness of death can become a guide to life, not because death is the point, but because finitude reveals value. Life becomes clearer when viewed from its horizon. These guideposts are not exhaustive, nor are they final. They are simply reminders, landmarks that have repeatedly proven useful while attempting to navigate the complicated terrain of being human. Most are things we already know, or perhaps more accurately, things we repeatedly forget. The challenge is rarely understanding them intellectually. The challenge is embodying them consistently. And that raises one final question. If much of wisdom is already known, why is it often so difficult to live? Why does a person understand something clearly and yet struggle to embody it? Why does insight fail to become action? Why does knowledge fail to become wisdom? The answer may lie in the instrument through which all experience is mediated. Every thought, every emotion, every fear, every relationship, every act of meaning-making, every encounter with reality itself, arrives through the same medium, a finite nervous system carrying consciousness through time, and it is to that instrument that we now turn.